Hello, my soccer universe. We had quite an eclectic mix of matches and competitions in this midweek, mostly cup competitions. We had main cup competitions in the Netherlands. We also had a teeny bit in Portugal, and we had, of course, the EFL Cup in England. We had league matches, not full rounds, but make-up games or preponed games in France, huge one, Spain, and of course Portugal. And then there was the little matter of Real Madrid adding another trophy to their cabinet, which is where we start. Real Madrid win the first edition of the new FIFA Intercontinental Cup by beating Pachuca in the final 3-0, a result that was never really in doubt. They started off easy with the best lineup, but as soon as Vini makes the run into the box and then finds Mbappe free to make it 1-0 in the 37th minute, there was only one winner, Rodrigo, beautiful shot from outside the box. There was no offside by Bellingham in the build-up. I mean, if you look at the replay, it looks ridiculous. 2-0 in the 53rd, and then, Vini also got his goal. Scored from the penalty spot. That win now makes Carlo Ancelotti the most successful ever Real Madrid manager. However, with that many bogus trophies that are being racked up, that is not that remarkable. And Real Madrid was always more about presidents and superstar players than about coaches. I also found it rather ridiculous that Vini Jr. was the player of the tournament. He played a single game. Shouldn't be one of the Pachuca guys who actually played a full 3 games in the entire tournament. Would have made more sense if you were to ask me. I also want to put a positive spin on it. I mean, the entire tournament is a revamped version of the old FIFA Club World Cup. And in order to make it a little bit more interesting, there are 4 trophies given out along the way. But I think that's not a bad thing. You have, for instance, an African Asian Pacific Cup where the winner of the OFC Champions League, the AFC Champions League faced off to then play against the winner of the African Champions League. Al Ahly won that one with a 3-0 over Al Ain, and they faced now the winner of the Derby of the Americas. What a great name. And rather surprisingly, Pachuca beat Botafogo 3-0 in Doha at the Stadium 974. And then it went all the way to penalties in the Challenge Cup, the cup that actually determines who will face the European Champions League champion. And that was won by Pachuca on penalties. A rather crazy one, because Pachuca missed their first 2, but then Al Ahly missed their last 2 among the regular 5, and then Pachuca convert 3 more, while Al Ahly misses the last one. So I think overall the way it's done, not that bad, but it's definitely the tournament that will not be highly regarded on the European continent. But I think for everywhere else, this might actually be quite interesting. We had quite a big and eventful top match in Ligue 1 in the midweek, with Monaco facing PSG. More or less the last chance for Monaco to get back into the title race. Alas, they cannot. PSG win 4-2 away from home, but it was a rather eventful game. I mean, PSG largely controlled it, Monaco more or less trying to hit on the counter, but one such counter saw Singo run onto Donnarumma. However, Donnarumma comes out, tries to save the ball, but in the process gets hit fully in the face with the stud from Singo. No red card, because there was not really an intention there, to be honest, but it was an ugly scene. Safonov had to come on then for Donnarumma, who had to be stitched with, I think, 10 staples. Looked not good. However, just a few minutes then after that substitution, Desiree Doué is served by Hakimi, and it's 1-0 PSG, and that was a deserved halftime lead. However, right after the half, there was a rather ridiculous penalty that Marquinhos gave away. I don't think this should be a hand penalty, but Benzeguir converts, and then just a few minutes later, Aurelien Bolo is assisted by Akliouche, who was the main threat for Monaco, to give Monaco the 2-1 lead. Is the game on? Not really, because Ousmane Dembélé just 3 minutes later equalizes. Then the game ebbs and flows, but goes more or less in PSG's direction. It's then Gonzalo Ramos who comes on for Desiree Doué, who gives PSG the lead after a corner kick by Lee Kang-in. And Monaco could have equalized right thereafter. I mean, Akliouche runs through the PSG defense. There are a few balls bouncing around, so he had also some luck. Puts it back, and Minamino cannot get it over the line. There was also Mbolo back there, and as they're pushing forward, Ousmane Dembélé in the 97th minute makes it 4-2 and secures the 3 points for PSG, who are now totally the favorites for Liga. 10-point cushion on top of the table, 10-point cushion ahead of Monaco. Yes, OM could cut it to 7, but it looks like PSG is gonna defend their title. And And while Real Madrid were adding one more trophy to the cabinet, we also had 2 La Liga makeup games from the games that have been postponed due to the horrendous flooding in the Valencia region. And both of these ended in a 1-1 draw, and typically you would say that 1-1 draws are better results for away teams, but not in this case. First one, Espanyol took on Valencia, and that draw now leaves Valencia stranded, still bottom of the table and 5 points from safety. Yes, with a game in hand, but that game is at home to Real Madrid. They were down through a Puado goal in the 44th minute, however quickly equalized after the half, tried to push for a winner, couldn't find one. Meanwhile, Rayo took the lead, deservedly so, in the 20th minute through Garcia, and then when Cambuala was sent off for a really rough tackle, you thought that Rayo is going to see that out. However, just before the half, Jose Perez gets the equalizer for Villarreal, who then were very well in the game in the second half. A good point for Villarreal. We also had some round of 16 cup action in Portugal, the Taça de Portugal, which also gives me an excuse to talk about the previous 2 rounds. Well, in round 3, where already big teams are entering, we didn't have any upsets, but at least we had a few close results, at least on the score sheet. However, in the second round, we had our first upset with Porto actually losing out away to Moreirense 2-1. This happened in late November. All the other teams more or less squeaked through that you would expect. Portuguese Cup, of course, a little bit like the FA Cup, has a completely random draw, which then resulted in a beautiful round of 16 draw where pretty much all the big teams are playing each other and all the small teams are playing each other, with a few exceptions, of course. And we had a pretty big matchup between Sporting and Santa Clara. Santa Clara, as a promoted team riding high in Liga Portugal, took on the champions. Harda, after a first half goal for Sporting was disallowed, gave Sporting a lead in 74th minute. However, deep in stoppage time, Ferreira equalizes, and then it needs Gyökeres to step up in the 112th minute, so Sporting squeak through into the next round. There will be 2 matches played on the weekend between the smaller teams, and the rest will come then in the new year. As for Liga Portugal, we had a makeup game from a game that was postponed due to fog in early October. Benfica at Nacional. Benfica win 2-0 away from home thanks to 2 second half Di Maria goals, which means now the Benfica move up into second place, only a point behind Sporting, and Porto is hanging also a point back. So as I've said previously, it's really tight up top, and this surely increases my interest in that league. Of course, there was also cup action in the Netherlands, and this gives me again an excuse to talk about round 1, which happened in late October, where we had a few tight results, not really upsets, and most importantly, the European teams were not yet involved. But for instance, Nijmegen, who made it all the way to the final last season, only going in overtime past fellow Eredivisie team Zwolle. Heerenveen only 3-2 away at the IJsselmeer Vogels. That doesn't sound good as well. Willem II at Hennemuiden, a 4th division team, needed overtime to win 3-2. I think Hennemuiden even had a 2-0 lead, and there was 2 very late goals that saved Willem II into overtime. And then a crazy 6-1 overtime win for Sparta Rotterdam. It was 1-1. This is one of the crazier overtime periods. And also Utrecht only a 2-1 at Lisse. Not a very great result. However, in round 2, we can already say Utrecht beat the Amsterdamse FC 8-0 away from home, so they definitely made up on that one. We also had an 8-0 for PSV over Koninklijke HFC, which is from Haarlem. This is not the other Haarlem team where, for instance, Ruud Gullit played. It was already 4-0 at the halftime. Ricardo Pepi scoring 2. Ivan Perisic adds 2 late on for players that we know. Of course, there was Lozano in there. PSV having actually fun in that one. Feyenoord went past Maastricht 2-1 away from home. Redmond scoring early in each of either half. Only late on, Maastricht pulled one back. Twente at Katwijk, cup side from the past few years, also had a little bit more trouble than one might expect. It was 1-1 at the half. Then Van Wolfswinkel Kuipers actually make a 3-1 lead before Tahiri late on makes it a little bit of a challenge for Twente. We also had an Eredivisie duel that went all the way to overtime and penalties. Ruim and Brüm scoring the 2 goals for Go Ahead Eagles and Sparta Rotterdam respectively. The home side then losing on penalties because they missed their last penalty. And in another Eredivisie duel, AZ beat Groningen at home 3-1. Minjans, Van Bommel and Adai being on the score sheet. And lastly, Ajax with a very unforced 2-0 at home against Telstar. Rugani scoring relatively late the first goal in the 64th minute. Akpom in the 86th adds a second. In England, it was all about the quarterfinals of what I call Europe's least important cup competition. I know this might be strong words for the EFL Cup, but if I look at it, in losing efforts, both Palace and Brentford either didn't play their best players or took their best players off during the game. Doesn't add to the value of the competition, but it was also remarkable that the North London teams were a little bit struggling. But let's go bit by bit. Arsenal took on Palace. Mateta gave Palace a lead in the first half, and it needed then a second half turnaround through Gabriel Jesus, scoring a hat-trick after, of course, at halftime, Ødegaard and Saliba had come on. Late on Nketiah, former Arsenal player, pulls one back to make it a bit nervy, but Arsenal see through to the semi-finals. Sandro Tonali, beloved by all Milan fans, is the big star of Newcastle's 3-1 win over Brentford. As I already said, Brentford didn't play necessarily the best players. They were 3-0 down. Braced by Tonali, Shea also scored one very late on. Vissa pulls one back. Meanwhile, Liverpool cleared their path to the semi-finals already in the first half. Nunez and Harvey Elliott scoring. Seeing it out, yes, Archer pulls one back, but Liverpool always in control. And it also seemed that Spurs are very much in control of the game against United. Solanke, Kulusevski and Solanke again gave them a 3-0 lead by the 54th minute. The game is done and dusted. No, then it's a goalkeeping mistake. Xerxes and Diallo can pull two back. Son then makes it 4-2 in the 88th minute before Evans very late on pull one back. Spurs more or less cruising, but errors always keep everyone in play. And we already know the semi-final draw. We have Arsenal taking on Newcastle and Spurs taking on Liverpool. So that was it for the midweek review. Let me know how you saw all of these games. Drop a line below. How do you think who will win these respective competitions, and what do you think about Carlo Ancelotti becoming the most titled manager in Real Madrid history? Any case, give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, subscribe to my channel if you want to see more. I'll talk to you soon about more things in my soccer universe. Bye! Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, here are some videos and playlists that you may enjoy too. Also, please consider subscribing to my channel and hit the little bell icon so you get notified whenever something happens in my soccer universe. And with that, have a wonderful day. Bye!